Hello and welcome to the show. We have a guest on a multiple attempt guest on the show here today. We have Failure.
Hey.
It's nice of you to finally join me in my new style show. It's nice to see some new guests in the audience. I really do appreciate you showing up. I'm trying to hand out wrenches if I see the need for them. Thanks for the new subscriber in the background there. Really appreciate it. And with that, let's get this board loaded. Welcome to the Great Debate. All right. So it's Failure's first time here and a couple of people's first time checking out the show. So here's what we do. The guest usually picks out the topics. Underneath the topic, there's a statement or a question, something to discuss pertaining to that topic. There are some light and friendly topics in the easy category all the way to the left. There's some general conversation topics in the middle there, and there's some hot topics on the right-hand side. Failure, would you like to start the show off by picking something?
I'll go with easy movies over there in the left. Yeah.
In a world of the future where everyone is androgynous, would procreation be a priority, or a necessity, or an old tradition?
Huh. So everybody's the same in the future. Male, female, doesn't matter. Would it be a priority or a necessity? I think it would be probably a necessity at that point.
You think that
I don't know. It's starting to go that way though. Whenever you see, whenever you look on TV and you see a shaved head or a fully armpitted female, you're like, maybe a Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't look too bad after you see one of those.
and you do see more and more of them, even in just regular situations. You see a lot of people adapting to certain fashion comforts, I guess is a nice way to put that. And they're just not appealing. So at some point in our future, with everybody being less appealing to the other and more androgynous, everybody looking close to a middle ground, it may become a priority or a necessity for people to start trying to procreate past the outlook that we're putting out towards other people, or some are putting out towards other people,
Mm-hmm.
Or with our medical and technical transitions, it could just become an old tradition that people do.
But so let me see. So yeah, if it doesn't matter if everybody looks the same, then you might get with somebody who where I guess the breeding wouldn't be possible. So you would have to find like an alternative method. So I think it would still be a necessity. Just probably not a. Oh. Uh, do you think people will want kids in the future when they're all looking alike?
There was off the androgynous scale. There was a movie, Gattaca.
Mm.
In the movie, you could actually select the disposition. You could select what your child was, a boy or a girl, blonde hair and blue eyes, or brown hair and brown eyes. You could select how tall you wanted them. You could select all sorts of features about them and deselect the possibility of them inheriting defects or becoming sick. And that actually became part of a it became more of an old tradition to have kids the regular way, and it became more of a necessity to do it this way so that your children would have the ability to move on and do something with their life. So I'm almost thinking maybe we could hit a point there where Gattaca hit, where instead of just having kids, people think of it as an actual biased or business decision to help their family in the future. It would be something that they actually have to pay for and select to do. It would be an investment, not something they just go out, have sex, and have kids.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Now, when anybody could just select, I want a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fucking Aryan kid, does it make it like, that special when you just get it?
Hey guys, what's up?
Oh, hey, hello.
Give me the rundown of what this is real quick.
All right, what's going on?
It's a Jeopardy style show, and I'm going to go over here because I had set up. I hope I picked the right guy. It's a Jeopardy style show. We pick topics, and underneath the topic there is a discussion statement or question to begin a conversation about that topic somewhere within that topic.
Okay.
So I think we kind of
we're running out on
that one. That's all right. I can speed that one out, and we will let Ian. Let's see if I can get everybody to see what I have, and you guys can tell me if this is the right picture to have there for you as a contestant. Okay. Look at that. I put a little extra work in before the show today.
Nice. That's the right one. Yeah.
This is the great debate.
This is the great debate.
Yeah.
All right, so you should be able to see the board there in the chat. Would you like to pick one of these topics? They are in categories. The left-hand side is sort of like easy, friendly banter type. The center category, the general category, is kind of like medium, everyday conversational items. And the right-hand column, the hot topics, are things that could get into a heated debate or could have a little more division between everybody. So go ahead and pick one.
Who, me?
Yep, you're up.
Let's go for the internet.
The internet is a needed device by the increased size of the population needing to do something.
Needing something to do. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's a pastime. Before, people would read books or watch TV and waste away in front of Meet the Kardashians, and now they can do whatever they want on the internet. It's vast. Let them watch Netflix. I would count Netflix as part of the internet. Or, watch YouTube Blood Sports. Why not?
Yeah.
Same thing.
If you see that your internet is disconnected, you start kind of jonesing for it. You can't go without it. It's definitely become a kind of an addiction for the peoples.
Yeah, I think the internet and the rise of the internet, what made it so popular is at the time the internet was rising, the global population and the Western populations were starting to increase in an advanced rate because of the end of the baby boomer the end of the baby boomer generation. So as we hit the late 90s and the early noughts, we started to get into an era where people needed and wanted something to do and somewhere to go because other options didn't quite fit in. There was too many people and not enough stuff to do, seemingly, to them. And the internet filled that void.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah.
It may not have necessarily been the best thing to fill the void, but it did fill a void that was created with the increasing population.
Definitely. And however, as if you forget Brave New World, it is warned that such things are distractions from real issues. However, my counter to that argument would be the fact that because the internet is so vast, it has given the majority of people in the world a voice, whereas before we had to depend on CNN or MSNBC or some other talking head to deliver those points to us. Now imagine, if you will, a world without an internet and there was only CNN, what would they tell us about Trump? Trump wouldn't have been president because the only place where we could get information from would be CNN. And, I guess some people watch Fox, sure, but, CNN plus MSNBC plus the BBC plus all these other channels would certainly outweigh anything that Fox could put out. So that is unfortunate. And, back in the day, people would only be able to listen to Rush Limbaugh on the radio, AM radio. That was the only place they could get a conflicting opinion, one that did not support the narrative. Now we can listen to InfoWars. You can listen to Milo. You can listen to, you can go to, listen to Ben Shapiro. Anybody is allowed a voice, and that's good. It's a good thing.
With what you're saying, here's an off-the-wall question. Whoever is doing that, I'm on the wrong screen to see it. Thank you so much for donating to the channel. I appreciate it. Newspapers used to, here's my view. With a newspaper, they used to try really hard to crunch a lot of information into those papers, and it wasn't about fluffing out your story. It was about being quick and concise and giving the information without any bias. And I think the loss of that media to fight the news has made it so that without the internet versus I'm saying this wrong, hold on. Without the newspaper that fought television news, people couldn't see the differing points and opinions. In the newspaper, you could read, just the quick basics of a story and what's going on, and then there'd be, a fluff piece later in the paper. The news just gives you what they want to give you, and that's it. They move on.
Mm-hmm. One thing I hate about the internet and the news is that now if like a restaurant in the middle of Ohio does something, all of a sudden it becomes news, and I don't like that. I think it makes people like care too much about shit that isn't even local to them or gonna affect them.
Right, local news on a national level, just it's too much information for people who don't care, and it just adds inconvenience to their life. It focuses on things that aren't warranting their focus.
Gay bakeries, or rather bakeries that refuse to bake cakes for gay couples who purposely go there and want to start trouble. Like, these people are political activists. They're not there because, I wanted to buy a cake and I just saw that you made nice cake. No, it's not like that. I think that websites like Mike and BuzzFeed, they definitely capitalize on the clickbait, so they go for the local news stories. They love that stuff.
Yep, they do. I am subscribed to BuzzFeed only to laugh at and thumbs down most of everything they make.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than willing to hear their viewpoint, but when I get halfway through the story and they're pushing a narrative and not showing in information, that's when I hit that thumb down, finish watching, and go, yeah, that was stupid. Just wasted 3 minutes. Failure, it is your turn.
I'll go with let's go with schools.
Schools. I'm too cool for school.
After school sports and activities should not be the school's responsibility. What does it do for the student, the parent, and the school?
It should not be the school's responsibility. I don't know. I think is something that is positive and should be encouraged in certain areas, because a lot of times without it being like part of the something that the school offers, a lot of students wouldn't probably wouldn't be exposed to certain things.
I absolutely agree with that. If it wasn't for schools, you wouldn't have the Boy Scouts or the Eagle Scouts. You wouldn't be like Failure said, you wouldn't be exposed to things that you don't normally do. I mean, without after-school activities or sports, kids would basically languish at home playing Minecraft. That's the reality of the situation, and it's even worse now because they have the internet. They can just download Minecraft and play it. But with school sports and activities, they're actually encouraged to go out, get off the couch, so to speak, and do other things. Like, there's library outings, there are There are museum trips, field trips, things where you get to explore the outside world, and on top of that, you get to socialize. So you're not always trapped on Snapchat or Instagram or whatever it is kids these days are using. It sounds so old. But no, but seriously, after school activities and sports are definitely important, and it gives something for kids to be proud of, especially if they're part of a good school. They might be rooting for a sports team. They might even be part of the sports team, and it gives them a sense of sense of pride in their school and what they're doing. It makes them part of a family, so to speak, a larger family, something outside themselves. Because a lot of kids these days are simply latchkey kids. Both parents go to work. Moms don't stay at home anymore to raise their kids. It's just not a thing that happens very much anymore. So having schools, promote activities and sports, it's definitely healthy for kids, I believe.
Okay, so let's look at the other side. Every time you send your student or child to sports and activities, that costs the school a great deal of money. The busing, the resources, the fields, the pools, the whatever you need for whatever sports and activities that you offer to the students. By offering the after-school activities, that's increasing the budget and costing more on taxpayers. So does that benefit equal out where parents are having to work more hours to pay more on taxes if the taxes could go lower because the school stopped offering so much extra on top of basic learning? That would lower the taxes and make it easier on families to be able to have somebody there.
I think that unless you're homeschooling your kid, which is perfectly fine, but you do need two parents to do that. Schools, I think it plays out in the long run. It's not a short-term thing. Obviously, you're going to have to pay more for schooling. If you go to a good school, it's going to cost more, especially if it's a prestigious school. It can even be a public school, but you're still going to have to, if you're a parent and you're responsible, you're going to have to pay for your school trip, right? Maybe it's $30 every parent pitches in. I think it outweighs. I think that definitely outweighs the expenditure, because you're not going every week. You're doing it once a month at the most. So I don't think it really costs that much for parents to do it. And this is very obvious in low-income schools versus high-income schools. In high-income schools, the parents generally are well off, or middle class at least. And the kids there are much more educated. They're much more worldly because they get exposure to the outside world. Whereas in low-income schools, they don't really have these sorts of activities. At most, they might have a sports team. And that reflects on what they do after they leave school. Right? Those kids, the ones who don't get that kind of exposure, they don't really make it very far in life, generally speaking, because they don't have that exposure. And in the early years, when you're a kid, you should be exposed to as much of the world as you possibly can be. Yeah,
I agree. Just because I write a statement in here a certain way doesn't mean I agree with it. It just means I'm trying to incite different viewpoints.
As a devil's advocate.
Do you have anything, Failure?
No.
All right. Let's see. Everybody in the chat seems to be having fun with my chat bots that I have set in there. I'm glad you guys enjoy them. I hope you're also enjoying the context happening on the show. Ian, I believe it is your turn to pick from the board.
Is it? Okay, let's pick video games. Let's go with that one. Should be easy.
Video games. With all of the games on the market, which game is the best, the highest sold?
No. Oh, do they want me to explain which game is the best? And is it because it's the highest sold? Well, I wouldn't say that, right?
No, it's asking you, in your opinion, which is the best, and then which do you think is the highest sold? It's just opening up the conversation on video games.
Which game is the best? Well, I guess that would depend on your taste in video games. Video games are much like movies. Can you really ask which movie is the best? Is it a Tarantino movie? Is it a movie by Martin Scorsese? You can't really tell. It depends on your taste, right? Maybe you don't like violent movies. Then it obviously wouldn't be either of those directors. It would be somebody else, maybe Alfred Hitchcock. But for me personally, it would have to be an RPG or with a lot of action in it. It can't be a slow game. I would pick something as mindless, perhaps, as Doom to be the best game, because if we're talking pure gameplay, I would go with Doom, because to me, Doom is pure mechanics. It's a purely mechanical game, and if you set the difficulty really high, it's going to be harder. It takes skill to complete. So a game like Doom would be perhaps the best. Or if you want to play multiplayer games, then something like Counter-Strike or Dota 2 might be really good. That's, of course, again, your taste, because these games are very different. As for the highest sold, Minecraft, I believe, holds that title. It's cheap, it's affordable, and lots of kids play it, and kids are a huge market. But if you want to go by adults, probably GTA 5.
All right. Failure, what do you got for this? I know Friday the 13th is going to come up first.
No, I would say probably GTA 5 is the best out there, because it gives you a variety of things you could do. You could just drive around if you want to, and never shoot a gun if you wish. The story I think is deep enough to online. Highest sold, I don't know, what is the highest sold? Is that Minecraft? Would it be Minecraft to you?
We'll get there. It's actually on the next card. I will say that I absolutely love Minecraft, and I didn't know about it until a few years ago. I was playing the Halo 4 map, where you can set up your own maps to play player versus player. And my nephew's like, if you like doing this, you're going to absolutely love Minecraft. And then a couple weeks later, he got me a copy for my Xbox. I started playing it. And the open field, open ability, freedom to be creative is awesome. And that does draw in a lot of attraction. I would say of the games that I own, it's probably one of the best. Although, Call of Duty has fallen out of my favor with the cost that it had, trying to keep up with all of the games every year and all of the DLCs. I just stopped caring. But it is not yet on the highest sold chart, and I'm going to go ahead and cue the next card. Tetris is the #1 sold game with over 170 million units sold.
Sold or given out for free, because it was free in the first place. It's made in Soviet Russia.
It was the sold copies for phones and others. It had a list for other free copies given out, but apparently original console versions, I want to say it was like 110 or 115 million or something like that on the original console versions, and 65 million digital copies on computers and phones.
Yeah.
So according to my search,
much, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, I want to say one of the Tetris copies was only like $1.99 on my phone. But
That's how much it cost, yeah.
It's been around forever. I honestly thought it would be something like Pac-Man or Tetris when I first searched it, and, not far off.
I would have gone with The Sims.
Like Tetris lie in like your top games? Would it be in your top 100, top 1,000, top 10,000?
I'd say somewhere in the top 100. Maybe like at the bottom of the top 50.
I would put it in top 10,000. I never really liked Tetris. I get it. I get the draw of it, and in fact, I feel like even games like what's it called, Left 4 Dead, are essentially first-person shooter Tetris. Each of the zombies that you kill is a block that you have to try to wipe. Right, you're going up against waves. In fact, I think the whole wave-based gameplay, Horde mode in Gears of War, Metal Gear Rising, and whatever. Not Metal Gear Rising, Metal Gear Survive. All these games, it's basically Tetris, except in a different form. They just make them more complex, or to set up traps or use different guns, but it's still Tetris if you're breaking it down to its core gameplay style.
Because each level offers more and faster.
That's right.
I can see
harder.
that.
Yeah, it's like certain games, say Assassin's Creed, it gets harder. The enemies use more attacks. God of War, same thing, right? So Tetris is like the quintessential video game. Everything else is just kind of based on it. But I wouldn't really play Tetris. It's not really my jam.
I played Tetris for a while. I kind of like those mind games that get you thinking about what your next move has to be before you do it, and you got to do every move knowing that your next move counts, not necessarily the one you're currently on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I like that forethought game thinking. I'm a chess player, so.
Yeah, right.
All right.
I think the time froze. Yeah,
No, that when you click the card to move it on, it freezes it automatically. All right. We are back at the board, and I believe that makes it Failure's turn.
Let's go television.
Television. It isn't good enough to have black television shows and movies. We need to have an abundance to make up for the previous lack thereof.
What is this, reparations for television?
You know, there's not enough Martins on the TV. We need 20 more Martins on TV to make up for white TV. Jesus.
Well,
I don't think that would work. Yeah.
I remember growing up to Urkel and what was the other one? Cosby Show and the other Cosby Show, and I think there was another Cosby Show. You know, I grew up with those. I watched those just as much as I watched cartoons.
Sure, me too. Me too. So it's a really it's a weird, misleading question to claim that people didn't watch that many black shows or that there weren't enough. I think there were a lot of black shows on TV, or at least there were enough of them. There's certainly much more, white shows, if you want to call them that. But the shows that we did watch were like the Cosby Show, and they were, I guess, inclusive to everybody who watched them, because I didn't feel turned off despite being not a black guy, right?
Right.
So this whole claim that, we need more black TV because people want to feel represented, I don't think that's true at all. People will watch a show that's good, and shows like Family Matters or The Cosby Show are actually good shows. And that's why people watch them. It didn't matter if the people on screen didn't look like them, didn't have the same skin color or facial features. That's not what people watched them for. People liked Bill Cosby, they liked Urkel because they were good characters. Hell, there was the... what's the name of that midget, the dwarf that everybody loved? Oh, I can't remember his name.
Which show?
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about, right? The short guy, he looks like a kid.
Gary Coleman?
Yeah, Gary Coleman.
Yes. Yeah, Gary Coleman. Everybody loved him. You know, they loved him as an actor. Yeah, he was people just laughing at him, mostly. But they loved him as an actor.
Tiberius Kirk says, Girlfriend, The Jeffersons, 227. We don't seem to have any shortage of shows we all watched as a kid. So why is it being said, I'm not going to say they, why is it being said that there's not enough representation for blacks if we all remember growing up with this as at least a large portion of our regular television programming?
Probably because of websites like The Root and Blavity, which claim that they don't get enough representation. It's of course false. Very, very false. And beyond that, I think the market will speak for itself. If you put too many black shows on TV and you start scrapping stuff like Breaking Bad, or even, hell, taking it off Netflix because there's too many white shows on Netflix, I think people will just unsubscribe. The market just speaks for itself. The reason why Black Panther is getting such good praise, not just praise, fuck the praise, I don't care about critics, why it's getting so many viewers watching it, why the cinemas are packed, is because it's a good movie. It doesn't matter what the race of the people in it are. They just want to watch something that's entertaining, good, and maybe like makes them think a little bit. But beyond that, I don't think it's necessary to.
You know what? Fucking Black Panther. The thing is an established brand. It already had story behind it and everything. If a movie came out that was called Ugandan Warrior came out, there would be nobody going to watch that movie. There would be no black presence because it isn't attached to something. The fact that Black Panther is attached to the Marvel universe makes it mean something more. But if a black producer and a black director and a black writer made a Ugandan warrior fucking thing where this guy from Uganda fucking takes up and becomes a superhero, that wouldn't get any, you know, like, oh, I'm proud to watch this in the theaters. No,
No, it
it would
wouldn't.
just be a movie that would go straight to DVD because nobody would pay attention to it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Black Panther is an A-list character. He's not one of the B-listers. He's actually an A-list character. He was established in the 60s, 1962, something like that. Very, very old character. People loved him even back then. They love him now. So I don't understand this whole push to claim that he's not a popular character, or that the only reason it's popular is because people are woke. I think people wanted to see him for a long time. Just like Blade. Blade was popular.
I loved the movies Blade. I'm almost thinking that the little appearance in I forget the exact name, the Captain America movie, the one where Panther and Spider-Man and everybody were all
Civil War.
Yeah, I think the Civil War appearance of the Black Panther is what really drew this in, because there's all these movies coming out, and we all know they're going to be interrelated, and they're all going to end and work together somehow. So we all want to see how this story comes together. Everybody's waiting to see how it's folded into this story, or what the backstory is going to be written as in the movie. I'm not looking at the fact that it's a Black Panther. I'm looking at, oh, it's the Black Panther. How does this correlate to what I've already seen?
Exactly. Captain America could be a black man, and I think we would still enjoy that movie, or those 3 movies.
I wouldn't enjoy it as much if all of the sudden Captain America became a black man after being white for 7 movies.
Yep.
You know,
the only way to do it, right? The only way to do it properly would be to go by the comics route, where they phase out Captain America or Steve Rogers and make, Falcon the captain. I think people will be okay with that. It's evolution, right? Evolution of the story.
And that puts it on Ian to select the next topic.
Okay. Give me a second. My dog is giving a fuss.
You're absolutely fine. Let me acknowledge the chat while we're at it. How is everybody in that chat doing today? We have some newcomers. Dax, welcome back. Cult of the Leech, how are we doing? Edmund Fitzgerald, I saw you in there. Black Panthers was created during a time of civil unrest. Its resurgence during a time of civil unrest is a no-brainer. I do agree with that. I think that people right now who are on the verge of wanting to fight over something, like seeing somebody else fight and feel that they're a part of it by being involved in seeing the movie or knowing what's going on or being able to relate to the situation. Who else do we got in here? Oh, go ahead.
I'm back. Shall I pick, or do you want to keep reading the chat?
Most of them are enjoying this ever so fun Skullbot I have that
I see that.
that just makes the chat interesting. I have to say, I found that in somebody else's and fixed it up to be fun in mine. So a little credit is due to the Renovations stream.
It's very nice. They're having a lot of interaction in there.
Well, when I do have guests, it gets hard to chat with the chat and the guests. So the more I chat with guests, the more I have the bots in there to make sure people aren't bored. But it is your turn. If you would like to go ahead and select from the board.
Sure, let's go with WTF or For the Win.
Beyond our control, there are space anomalies that could kill us before we know it's coming. Why do we not spend more resources on space?
Oh, I have the answer for that. It's because it doesn't seem very urgent. We don't know what's out there. We can't tell. And so the idea of throwing money at something, just in case something bad happens, isn't something that a lot of people are thinking about. A lot of people are thinking about what they can do tomorrow or even the next hour. They're trying to feed their kids or feed themselves in many cases. So they're not looking at, oh, what's going to happen to the human race in 100 years if a meteor hits us? I mean, people on Earth in general are very selfish. I think Ayn Rand was completely right when she said people are by default selfish. Because if we weren't selfish, we would be very concerned with the amount of pollution we're putting out there. And I'm not even talking about global warming. I'm talking about the trash that we throw in the ocean. That's going to affect us within 10 years. It's going to be fish are going to be impossible to fish because there's not going to be any fish left, or they're going to be very hard to catch because we're overfishing for starters. So the idea of throwing a lot of money, investing a lot of money into space for the purpose of possibly detecting a meteor and maybe finding a way to stop it isn't something most people are going to be thinking about much less. They don't even realize that's a thing because they only see what's in front of them, and space is way out there.
Oh, I suppose that's true. Failure, you got anything?
I don't think we've ever been into space. I think it's all a plan of the Illuminati. They staged the moon landing.
It was on a set in New Mexico.
Yeah. I don't believe in airplanes either. I just believe no. I think a big part of it is the budget. People just see how much money it takes, and it takes a president that is willing to put the money there.
Yeah.
George Bush, when he first came to power, right, in 2000 or something, he actually wanted to put humans on the moon in 2015. If you go out, look it up on Wikipedia, that page hasn't been updated in years, and it says that Bush had announced plans to put mankind back on the moon in 2015, build a moon base. Where's the moon base? I want that moon base already.
I want my moon base too.
Yeah. Not even happening. So sad.
And now we're sending cars. Unwanted Reaper wants to know where his red Tesla went, and I think we found it. There's a few cameras attached to it, and it's floating around somewhere.
I gotta ask, why are the Asians not in space? Like they got the money.
Yeah, China does have the money. They could easily do it. They have the technology, the money, and I think it's for the same reason. They don't really think it's that urgent right now. They're really focused on Africa at the moment. They're building up Africa, colonizing it, if you want to call it that, but I don't think they're really colonizing it. They're really enriching local populace by giving them jobs and building skyscrapers over there in Africa. It's going to be it's going to be developed within 50 years if China just keeps up with what it's doing. And that's a good thing. You could argue it's a bad thing because it makes China very rich, but it might be an overall good, right, for humanity. And that way, people in Africa won't want to immigrate to different countries. They will build up their own countries, and I think that's fantastic. I want Africa to be competitive with the rest of the world. They shouldn't be lagging behind just because they don't have the technology. And if China is willing to provide them with all of this, that's good. I think.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Why do the What, you think the Asians are stupid enough to expose themselves to radiation? They will leave that to the white people.
So what I think is, for the future of space, it's definitely not going to come from public funding. It's going to come from private companies like SpaceX and Armadillo. They are the ones who are going to launch these ventures into space. They're the ones who are going to mine the first asteroid. Elon Musk is probably going to be the guy who mines the first space asteroid and brings it back to Earth, puts a couple of jets on it, lands it in the ocean, that starts mining it. That would be terrific. And yeah, he's got some government support, but really not that much. It's his initiative.
We'll ignore the buzzer for a minute. There. I want to say it's Mercury, the next planet in towards the sun, or is it Venus?
Mercury is the closest to the sun.
And then it's Venus, and then it's us, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Venus is a gaseous planet that we know that we cannot land on the surface of. Anything that we try to, we'll lose. But they found that if we could develop a station that could sit high enough in the atmosphere, that just the gases and the chemicals that it can collect would pay off building something there.
Yeah, that would be worth it.
So I always thought that was cool, but we don't go in towards the sun. We always go out to Mars.
Yeah. Venus might be a good idea. And I think we need to stop thinking of Venus as planet with a surface down below, because it's more like a sea of gas, right? It's a sea of gas.
There is a surface. It's the surface,
right,
the pressure
much like
at the surface.
of, right. It's too high. Yeah, it's like at the bottom of the ocean. So we have to try not to think of it as gas, and try to think of it as water. Really, really toxic water that burns you at the touch.
Yeah. Oh, pardon me again. Failure. Must still be tired this morning. It is your turn again.
Well, let's go with mainstream media.
By limiting the time allotted for debate and conversation, it makes time for more stories and keeps this conversation short, direct, and to the point.
Completely disagree. What they do is they regurgitate their points over and over and over again. They drill into your head. They're like Christopher Cuomo today on Twitter, going 97% of people want a change with the way gun laws are handled. 97%. That's not conversation.
Bullshit. If you talk to regular people are not at all saying what they want, because what they totally want is guns just to be abolished.
Yeah. That's the problem with the news, is that it tries to keep everything snappy, keeps it interesting, so to speak, but it doesn't really allow for intellectual discussions. It doesn't allow for any in-depth conversations. You can't have someone like Jordan Peterson explain the full length and breadth of his ideas if you only have him on for 3 minutes. It doesn't represent who he is, what his ideas are, and the same could be said of anybody else. You could even say the same thing about Richard Spencer if you wanted to. You have to allow each person to properly explain their ideas so that they can be engaged properly. Otherwise, it's disingenuous. What the media usually does, because it's only allots 3 minutes per person, is that it boosts the people it likes, and it basically gives you really, gives you the worst of the person that they don't like. So if they were to show 3 minutes of Hillary, it's going to be 3 minutes of really good talking points. Here's all the good things that Hillary has done. Now you give 3 minutes to Trump, they're not going to give it. They're not going to spend it talking about 3 minutes in which, he's praised. They're not going to talk about the good that he's done. They're going to talk about the bad things that he's done. And that's why it's really skewed and it's really biased. The limitation allows them to promote or to push a narrative that otherwise they wouldn't be able to do if they had 20 minutes per person.
Right. Sometimes I feel like the reporter will get their questions out, and the person who starts talking will get a few things across, but it's the person who's talking doesn't end up getting quite to the point that's being asked in the right amount of time, and it's, I'm sorry, we have to go. Thanks for joining us. You see it a lot on Tucker Carlson and a lot on Fox News. You see it somewhat on CNN, a little bit on ABC and CBS. I try not to watch too much long news shows. I try to watch the clips, but you do see it in those clips like, well, I'm sorry, we got to go. You're avoiding the point.
Yeah, and sometimes they are avoiding the point. Some people are just really bad speakers. They're unable to remain concise, or they deflect. For instance, with Tucker Carlson, he will ask a very straight question, yes or no. You can answer yes or no, but many of the guests that he has on, the ones who are hostile to Fox News, they will waffle because they know that if they say yes or no, yeah, they'll offer some nonsense, like some elaborate.
The point I want to get across with you is not yes or no. It's that yes or no doesn't matter, and all of these other words do.
You know what I noticed with a lot of those shows is that usually you'll have the host, a person from one side, a person from the other side. What you see is the host lets the person from the side they favor talk, and then whenever the other person starts talking, they'll interrupt them and interject their own opinion, which also takes up that person's time. And they always, oh, no, well, we got to let this person have their chance to talk. We already talked about what you wanted to talk about.
Happens a lot on CNN. Yeah. Like when they were talking about WikiLeaks with the representative, he was getting into the subject of Assange and the WikiLeaks, information about Hillary Clinton and Podesta, and they cut him off. They purposely cut off his feed, and Chris Cuomo was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
You do see that a little bit on YouTube too, where people will cut off the feed when they don't want to stop hearing you. But the conversations on YouTube keep happening. If what you want to say on one show doesn't come out, there's more shows. You're going to get on someone else's live stream and keep talking. We're on the news. You finally get this little clip of what's going on from these people, and then they either get cut off or they totally avoid the point, and you're left wondering what's going to happen after that.
Yeah. I think what people need to do is before they go on the news, they need to learn how to be concise, and they need to have their talking points laid out before them.
I think that's also exactly what's happening, and they're being asked a question, and they're not listening to the question, they're going over their talking points.
Yeah, you have to be able to play along with it. You have to be able to get into the flow, segue into things. Otherwise, you're just going to sound like a preacher, and no one likes a preacher.
Well, so here we are 3/4 of the way through the show. How are you guys liking this format?
I love it. I want to do this more.
It's a little bit different. It's not like a regular type of debate. I'm not after people arguing. Let's just get some opinions, some viewpoints, some thoughts, and ideas out for other people to hear.
Yeah.
How about you, Failure? You enjoying yourself?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting.
Different.
Yeah. Yeah, you sent me a DM earlier and said you were really enjoying yourself, so I think Phil is really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think he's just a little tired. He was up late playing video games.
Friday the 13th, yeah, so...
Right. I'm getting closer to being able to budget the money in to buy it, so I might be playing soon. We'll see. I just want to make sure everything else that I got to do is taken care of first.
Yeah, hey, chat, if you can donate some
No,
spare change...
No, I don't do that. I don't do that. If they got it, they got it. If they don't, they don't. There's cool little things I make for them if they do, but I don't sit and ask. It's there for them if they ask. Literally, the bot will give them links if they ask for links. The bot will give them everything they need. The show is about the conversation.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, you're enjoying yourself.
I try. It's a lot of hard work trying to come up with these questions sometimes, but I try to come up with the questions and the statements in a way that's going to make people think. One might come up, and make total sense. The next one might come up and be completely opposite of what makes sense, and you're sitting there going, no, wait, why would you ask that?
Hi, viewer. As you know, YouTube is facing demonetization. If you want to support independent journalism, then you can donate to my Patreon here.
You know who I'm making fun of right now.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So I believe, how many have we done? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would make it Ian's turn, I want to say.
Let's go with LGBTQ plus alphabet.
Perfect way to describe it. Laws that include special protection to LGBTQ+ are or are not discriminatory, and towards who?
Failure, you want to answer this one first?
Let me see. Special protection for LGBTQ plus are not our or could you dive a little bit more into the question?
All right, so if a law or a mandate is put forward to give protection to somebody in an LGBTQ community, is that discriminatory towards someone, or is it not? And if it is, who is it discriminating against? Ian let you go first because he knows he's going to talk for 10 minutes after that.
Okay, I would say that I would say that it's definitely good to have some protections for LGBTQ people. However, it can go too far, right? It's one thing to say, hey, it's not okay to fire a person for being gay. In fact, I agree with that law. It's not okay to fire a person for being gay, for having certain sexual preferences, unless, it's pedophilia or something. it's not okay to discriminate against a person for their gender, right? It's all about equality, right? It's all about equality. However, the instant you start forcing people to use gender pronouns and you put it in law, you codify it in law, that's when it becomes a problem, because you're essentially telling people what to think and what not to think. By prohibiting people from, expressing themselves, or by prohibiting people from using the pronouns that they sort of grew up with. For instance, if let's say I just know he and she, right? And if you force me to say bun or bunself or zri or zer, you're forcing me to do that. That is discrimination against everyone who refuses to kowtow to the progressive line. On top of that, it's a slippery slope, because how much protection are we giving these people? And for the most part, I see a lot of actual transgender people who don't want these kinds of laws, because like me, like you and me, they're seeing the same thing. They're seeing it as an overreach on the government's part. If a person chooses not to address you by your pronouns, it's not illegal. It shouldn't be illegal. It's a courtesy to you. It's not something you can force on people. In fact, it will backfire if you force people to adopt your preferences. You can't force people to refer to you as Z or Zer or whatever. On the flip side, you can't not have, like I said, right?
I think let's direct your attention here a little bit.
Go for it.
The progressive stack is out there that people with different inherited qualities are therefore subject to protections because those qualities are discriminated against on the regular. I don't agree with this. So here is my reason why. If I am going to go kill somebody, the reason that I have behind killing them has nothing to do with the fact that I'm going to kill them.
Right.
Does that make sense? I may be headed out to kill somebody because he's black, or I may be headed out to kill somebody because I disagreed with him. That's my motive. It is not the reason for the killing. I didn't kill him because he's black. I killed him because I don't like black people.
Right.
So why does making that crime because he's black, I now committed a hate crime, white on black, stating that he was black, why is that crime now worse than me killing somebody because I don't agree with them because they're also white? How is that crime worse?
It's really not. If you break it down, it really isn't worse, right? It's the same thing. Murder is still murder regardless of your motive.
So apply those same kind of logic to offering LGBTQ extra rights based on their presence in that community. So again, another born in or inherent quality of the person being, lesbian or gay or however they fit into there. Okay?
Yep.
But you're going to give them preferential treatment, saying that if you do a crime against them, it's now worse because they are them than it is doing a crime against, let's say, you because you're, I assume, a straight heterosexual. Why is the one crime worse than the other just because of the person?
Right, it's a slippery slope fallacy, right? If you start affording people special protections or special privileges, then it becomes, let's say you're an employer and you have two candidates that you can hire. One is a straight white male, he's qualified for the job. The other one is a queer person, and they are perhaps less qualified. I'm not saying they're bad, I'm just saying they're less qualified, so they don't get the job. Now, that queer person can go to the Human Rights Commission and claim that they were discriminated against because of their race or gender or whatever. And that's a problem because it takes away people's freedom to choose, first of all. And secondly, it basically says that unless you hire this person over everybody else, you're a bigot. So that's bad. And Failure, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I really don't have much on this topic.
Good.
Well, to each their own. Everybody has a different viewpoint, different perspective. That's why I don't just cover one topic per show. I try to cover a few. We've done pretty good at clearing the board out today. I am glad you guys got to join me. This is an hour show, so here we are coming to the end. I want to push everybody into assuming failure is going live in about 5 or 6 minutes with the Failure Morning Show.
Is he?
I got, if his eyes aren't closed in the chair in front of his computer right now.
They might be closed in front of us right now.
So if he is awake in 5 minutes, Failure will be going live. Other than that, there's Mad Woman in about a half an hour and the Kumite in about 1 hour's time this morning. I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation. I hope the chat enjoyed themselves as well. And again, I invite anybody who would like to take part in the conversation onto the show, just get hold of me. This week, I hopefully have guests on for the next couple days, but we'll see how everything goes. I want to thank Failure. I want to thank Failure and Ian for joining me today. It's been an awesome conversation.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And with that,
you can invite me in the future if you want to.
Oh, absolutely. I got you on my Twitter now. I will... You can ask if you have time and just like, hey, I'm bored today. You got guests? I don't mind. Yeah. Ask, because I'm not always filled. Sometimes I just chat with the chat.
Now, I'd like to thank Failure for hooking me up with this hangout. It's pretty fun. Time flew by. I didn't realize that an hour had actually passed. Wow. Yeah. Insane.
And I did see the comments about the slowest Jeopardy show ever. Yeah, because it's a little different. It's a little different, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Conversation.
That's exactly what it is. It is a game show conversation. So, with that, if I can find the right music tab, thank you, everybody. Have yourselves a fine day. I'll see you all tomorrow.